A 20-year-old girl from Quezon City walks into the Miami Open as a wild card. She has no seeding, she has no ranking points to speak of. She has, by the sport's own logic, no business being there. And then she beats the 5th-ranked player in the world, then the 2nd-ranked player in the world, back-to-back, in the same tournament, on the same hard courts where the biggest names in women's tennis have been grinding their careers for decades. And the first time most of the world found out her name, when the scoreboard was already showing her winning, that is Eala. And if you think you already know her story, I promise you, you don't. Not really. Not the full version. Not the part they don't put in the highlight reels. Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be straight with you today. I almost didn't make this video. Not because the story isn't worth telling, but because I kept feeling like I wasn't doing it justice. I'd write a draft and delete it, start again, delete again. Because there's a version of this story that's easy to tell and a version that's actually true, and those two versions are very different things. The easy version goes like this: young prodigy trains hard, gets discovered, goes viral at a big tournament, becomes a star. Clean, simple, shareable. The real version is messier, lonelier, more painful, and honestly, so much more worth your time. So let's do the real version. Eala was born on May 23, 2005 in Quezon City, Philippines, into a family that already knew what athletic discipline looked like. Her mother, Riza Maniego Eala, was a competitive swimmer who earned a bronze medal at the 1985 Southeast Asian Games. Her father, Mike, is a businessman, so there was already a foundation there, this understanding that excellence doesn't arrive by accident, that it has to be chased, deliberately, every single day, even when every muscle in your body is asking you to stop. She was 8 years old when she signed her first endorsement deal. 8. Think about what you were doing at 8. I was probably arguing with my parents about staying up late to watch cartoons. Eala was already representing a Filipino telecommunications brand as a sponsored athlete, because people who watched her play could already see something in her that you don't teach, that quality of movement that either exists or it doesn't. But endorsements at 8 years old, as cool as that sounds, don't mean anything without the work to back them up. And what happened next is where the story gets hard. In 2018, when Alex was 13 years old, she and her brother packed their bags and flew to Manacor, Spain, to the Rafa Nadal Academy. Let me sit with that for a second, because I think we rush past it too fast whenever we tell this story. 13 years old, she left her home, her friends, her language, her comfort zone, everything familiar to her, and moved to a country where she didn't speak the native language fluently, to train at one of the most demanding tennis academies on the planet, surrounded by other elite juniors from across the world who wanted exactly what she wanted and were willing to do exactly what she was willing to do to get it. That is not a small thing. That is genuinely one of the loneliest and most difficult decisions a teenager can make, and she didn't make it reluctantly or under pressure. She made it because she understood, at 13, that the path she wanted required sacrifice that most people her age couldn't even conceptualize. The Nadal Academy isn't a place where they coddle potential. It is a place where they test it. Hard training blocks, tactical drilling that goes on long after the fun stops, mental resilience work, physical conditioning that borders on punishing. You do not survive the Rafa Nadal Academy by talent alone. You survive it by being the kind of person who keeps showing up even when showing up feels impossible. Alex not only survived, she started winning. By 2020, when she was just 14, Eala won the Australian Open Junior Doubles title, partnering with Priska Nugroho. That's a Grand Slam title at 14. Let's not normalize that too quickly. The Australian Open is one of the 4 biggest tournaments in all of tennis. The junior event attracts the best young talent on the planet, and she won it at 14. Then in 2021, she won the Roland Garros Junior Doubles title, back-to-back Grand Slam Junior Doubles titles. She was becoming a name in the tennis world's junior circuit, the level where scouts and coaches and agents and federations start paying serious attention. But the junior doubles titles, as extraordinary as they were, almost felt like a warm-up for what came in 2022. The 2022 US Open Junior Singles. This is the one, because winning a junior Grand Slam singles title is an entirely different animal from doubles. Singles is just you, no partner to cover for you on a bad day, no one to lean on when the pressure starts compressing from every direction. Just you and the opponent and whatever you've got in the tank. Eala won it. She became the first Filipino in history to win a major junior singles title. To be Filipino is something I take so much pride in, she said after winning her first Grand Slam main draw match at the US Open years later. But you could hear the seed of that pride in how she played at the junior level, every match carrying a weight that went beyond her own career. She wasn't just playing for herself, she was playing for an entire country that had never seen one of their own do what she was doing. Now here is the part of the story that rarely gets told because it's not as easy to make a thumbnail about. After the junior titles came the transition to professional tennis. And if you know anything about how sports careers work, you know that this transition is where most prodigies quietly disappear. The gap between being the best junior in the world and being competitive on the professional WTA tour is enormous. It is not a step up, it is a completely different environment with completely different physics. Opponents who've been grinding the pro circuit for a decade, who've learned how to dismantle the games of young players who show up with raw talent but without match-hardened experience. Alex spent years doing exactly what you're supposed to do in that situation. She went through the ITF circuit, the WTA 125 events, the qualifying rounds of bigger tournaments. She won some. She lost more than she wanted to. She got injured. She had to work through the painful experience of playing matches she knew she should win and losing them anyway, not because she wasn't talented, but because professional tennis is an education that only the court itself can give you, and that education costs points and losses and sleepless nights. She ended 2024 ranked 147th in the world. Perfectly respectable for a 20-year-old just finding her footing on tour. But not yet the story everyone had been expecting since the junior years. The question that was quietly being asked in tennis circles was a simple one. Is she going to make it? And then came Miami.
The 2025 Miami Open. Eala entered as a wild card, which is essentially the tennis tournament's way of saying, we're giving her a shot, but she doesn't have the ranking to be here on merit alone. She's here as a favor, as an opportunity. She made them regret being that generous. In the first round, she beat Katie Volinets, ranked 43rd in the world at the time, in straight sets. Clean, composed, like she'd already been doing this for years. Then she beat Jelena Ostapenko, a former French Open champion, a player famous for hitting the ball harder than almost anyone on tour, whose flat laser-guided ground strokes have dismantled the games of better-ranked opponents for a decade. Then, and this is the one that stopped the tennis world cold, she beat Madison Keys, the 2025 Australian Open champion, the 5th-ranked player in the world, beaten by a wild card from the Philippines who, 2 weeks earlier, had been ranked 130th. But she wasn't done.
A walkover against Paula Badosa moved her into the quarterfinals, where she faced Iga Swiatek, the number 2 player in the world, the person who had dominated the WTA tour so completely and so consistently for so long that beating her had become almost a mythological idea for younger players. The thing you say you're going to do without quite believing it's possible. Eala made it possible. She beat Swiatek in that quarterfinal, in Miami, as a wildcard who had no business being in the draw in the first place by any conventional tennis logic. With that win, she became the first Filipino player to beat a top 5 ranked player at a WTA event, the first Filipino to reach a WTA 1000 semi-final, the first Filipino to break into the top 100 in the world, all in the same 2-week stretch.
Social media, understandably, lost its mind, not just in the Philippines. Globally, tennis fans, who had never heard of Eala, were suddenly watching highlight packages and trying to understand who this person was and where she had come from. And the Filipino community around the world, particularly in cities like New York and Los Angeles, erupted with a kind of national pride that you can feel through a screen. For that night in New York, the future of Philippine tennis stepped firmly into the present, ESPN wrote. The story didn't stop in Miami, and this is important, because one breakout tournament can be a fluke. 2 weeks doesn't make a career. Alex kept going. She reached her first WTA Tour final at the Eastbourne International in June, losing in a final set tiebreak to Maya Joint in a match so tight it could have gone either direction. She won her first WTA 125 title in Guadalajara, Mexico in September. Then in New York at the US Open, she beat 14th seed Clara Tauson in 3 sets, becoming the first Filipino player to win a Grand Slam match in the Open era. She came back from 5-1 down in the final set to do it. Of course she did. I'm always in the mood for more history, she said on court afterward. This match is one for the books for me. And then to cap the year, the SEA Games in Thailand, December 2025. Alex won the women's singles gold medal, the first Filipina to win that title in 26 years. When she crossed the court after the final point, the tears came. She handed the gold medal to her mother, the former swimmer who had earned her own bronze medal 40 years earlier, in a different sport, in a different era, but with the same fire. That image alone could break you if you let it. She ended 2025 ranked 53rd in the world after starting it at 147th. She had risen almost 100 spots in a single calendar year. She was 20 years old. I want to take a second here and step back from the scorecards, because I think if we only look at the statistics, we miss the bigger picture.
The Philippines doesn't have a long history in tennis at the elite level. The infrastructure, the funding, the pathway from a junior training at home to a ranked professional competing internationally, that pipeline barely existed before Eala started climbing through it. What she's doing is not just winning tennis matches. She's building the proof of concept for an entire generation of young Filipinos who want to pick up a racket and believe that the sport is for them. Having a WTA tournament here is a huge stepping stone and a wake-up call, she said after the inaugural Philippine Women's Open was held on home soil, an event that probably doesn't happen without her emergence creating the demand for it. Filipinos are hardworking and passionate, and if we start to invest in our tennis players, we can slowly build more champions.
That's the language of someone who understands their role, goes beyond their own results. She's not just trying to win, she's trying to open a door wide enough that others can come through behind her.
And she does all of this with a personality that is completely, genuinely, refreshingly her own. She's on social media not because a PR team told her to be, but because she has something to say and a generation of people who want to hear it. She cried on court after winning the SEE Games gold, and nobody thought it was a weakness. They thought it was human. Because it was. She appeared on the cover of Vogue Philippines. She represents Nike, Babolat, BPI. She is a fashion presence, and a cultural figure, and a community voice. And none of it, contradicts the fact that she spent years grinding through qualifying rounds on courts far from home while ranked outside the top 100 in the world. Both things are true. They were always both true.
As of early 2026, Eala is ranked number 31 in the world, a new career high. She is the highest ranked Filipino in WTA Tour history. She has wins over Grand Slam champions, top 5 players, and seeded opponents at the biggest events on the calendar. She is 20 years old. There is a version of the next decade where Eala goes to Grand Slam finals, where she wins titles on multiple surfaces, where the name on the scoreboard becomes one that casual sports fans know, even if they don't follow tennis. That is not hype, that is just reading the trajectory, honestly. But more than any ranking number or any result on any scoreboard, what Eala has already accomplished is this: she showed a country that the dream is real, that you can leave home at 13 and grind through the loneliness and the losses and the quiet years when nobody's watching. And eventually, if you keep showing up, the scoreboard tells the story you always knew was in you.
Her season message at the end of 2025, posted to her own social media in her own words, said it better than I ever could. My dreams have come true. It's a true privilege to look back and relive these incredible moments through memory. Everything that has happened this season and all the emotions that came with it are a love letter to my family, friends, team, everyone who has supported me along my tennis journey, and of course, to little Alex, the 13-year-old who packed her bags and flew to Spain. That line is going to live in my head for a long time. I said at the beginning that there's an easy version of this story and a real version. The easy version is the highlights: Miami quarterfinal, Grand Slam win, rankings climbing, viral moments. None of that is false, it's just incomplete.
The real version is the years before any of that, the junior circuit grind, the transition years when she was ranked outside the top 100 and the world wasn't watching, the matches she lost, the distances she crossed, the adjustments she made, the persistence it takes to keep your belief in yourself sharp when results don't immediately justify it. That's the version worth telling, that's the version that matters. Eala isn't just a tennis story, she's an argument, a loud, data-backed, beautiful argument for what happens when you give a kid from the Philippines the resources to dream as big as she wants, and the courage to actually chase it. She is 20 years old and ranked 31st in the world. I cannot wait to see what she does next.
If you're new here, subscribe. We cover stories like this one, the ones that go deeper than the scoreboard. Drop in the comments, did you know about Eala before this video, or is this your first introduction to her? I genuinely want to know. And if there's another athlete you think deserves this kind of breakdown, tell me, because that's exactly the kind of content I want to keep making.